Hey everyone, happy Sunday. It is June 5th, which means we are now in the first week of the Atlantic hurricane season. Lots of you have been sending me messages on Facebook, Instagram, and basically all social media platforms asking me what is next in my career. I'm sure a lot of you saw my Facebook update about 3 weeks ago that I was leaving WGNO in New Orleans. So, want to kind of answer that question right off the bat. I am joining the Environmental Defense Fund and the Restore the Mississippi River Delta nonprofit here in New Orleans, and I'm going to be taking a senior communications specialist job there, basically doing a lot with coastal restoration, wetland restoration, and hurricane preparedness. So, super excited about that. The good news about this job is that I'm still going to be able to do all of the Facebook and YouTube updates that you're used to during hurricane season. I just won't be on television every day like I used to be. Now, the good news about that for me personally is that I'm going to be able to sleep in a little bit. Now, waking up at 2 a.m. sounds pretty nice, and it will give me a lot more freedom in my personal life and in my professional career. It's something that I'm super passionate about. So I'm really excited to tackle the new challenge. But of course, with hurricane season now officially here, we've got to talk tropics. And I wish that I could say that we don't have anything that is worth watching down the road. So as always, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and on Facebook as well for hurricane season updates throughout the entire hurricane season, though truthfully, hopefully, we do not have anything that heads our way after a very active hurricane season last year, a historic season with the most named storms ever in the 2020 hurricane season. So let's talk about what we've got going on right now. And the truth is, nothing is happening in the Atlantic basin, and that is going to continue to be the trend in the near term. Let me pull back this camera, and you can see in the Eastern Pacific, this is the latest update from the National Hurricane Center in the Eastern Pacific. And out towards our south and in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean, we do have two areas of disturbed weather. The next names on the list, I pulled them up here for you. Carlos and Dolores are the next two names in the Eastern Pacific. Of course, the Eastern Pacific season begins on May 15th. So it's been going up and running for about 3 weeks now, and they've already had two named storms. You can see one area out towards the south of Cabo San Lucas. This now has a 90% chance of tropical development, so that would become Carlos heading out to sea. No harm to anyone, but of a little bit more interest is this area back towards the south and east. This area of disturbed weather, just south of Honduras and Belize and Yucatan, this area of disturbed weather has a lower probability, but a 30% chance over the next 3 to 5 days south of El Salvador, Guatemala, and southern Mexico of becoming the potential fourth named storm south of Mexico. And that one obviously a little bit more interesting because it's closer to the Mexican continent and Central America. So this could bring some very heavy rain to parts of South Central America. Now, here's what's interesting about this feature south of Mexico. This is part of something that typically this time of year gets a little bit more active. We call it the Central American gyre. Try saying that 3 times fast. This is basically a broad area of counterclockwise spin in this part of the Western Caribbean, Southern Gulf of Mexico, and basically South American and Central American continent. Again, called a gyre, or a broad area of spin or disorganized showers and storms. And every now and then, typically, we start to kind of keep an eye on this feature because as you get kind of all of this thunderstorm bubbling over parts of Central America, this can create tropical systems in both the Eastern Pacific and also in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. And I think with time, the western part of the Gulf of Mexico and into the Caribbean Sea is going to be worth watching as we go into the middle part of June. So in just about 7 to 10 days, I think it's worth keeping a wary eye on areas towards our south. Now again, nothing imminent coming our way, but it's something that down the road, of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on. Being said that, Here's a look at what we call the Madden-Julian oscillation. This is called the MJO. You may have heard it once or twice before. It looks to move into a favorable phase for tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea as we go into the middle part of this month. So kind of just an added kind of signal to keep an eye on things towards our south. The Climate Prediction Center, they put out updates talking about the global hazards for tropical development. And notice between June 9th, so just a couple days from now, to June 15th, they are now giving a high likelihood. I think it's going to be more towards the 15th if we do see anything just starting to develop towards our south. But you can see towards our south, this area that they got highlighted in red in the Western Caribbean, they're giving a high likelihood of tropical formation. You can see the scale down here on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. They give a high likelihood of something developing towards our south. Of what strength, of what organization, where will it go? All those questions are so far down the road. But, it's just kind of one of those things that kind of signals that as much as we don't want to talk about it, hurricane season is here, and we have to make sure that we're prepared and keeping an eye on things down the road as always, as we always do this time of year. Typically, these early season systems, this is a very common breeding ground for where they're located in the Western Caribbean. Sometimes they can come up and go towards Florida. They can come up and go towards Mexico. They can never develop at all. So there's an endless amount of possibilities with anything that forms towards our south. But again, it's just too far out for us to really pinpoint any of those details until we actually have a system there. And we're likely not going to for at least a week out from right now. The next name on the list in our basin would be Bill, the second named storm of the season. Looking at the GFS, you can see that it does spit out a system south of the Mexican continent. This is at 102 hours out, so about 3 to 5 days from now. And watch what happens. As I pull this through in time, you see this broad area? Here's what we call the gyre. See that? That broad area of counterclockwise spin right over parts of Central America and the Yucatan. Now, does a storm try to form over here in the Western Caribbean? Does it form south of Mexico in the Eastern Pacific, or maybe even in the Bay of Campeche, or maybe even one of each? You just don't know. So again, it's something that we keep an eye on, worth keeping an eye on as we head into the middle part of June, but nothing in the short term that is of worry, but of something that is of interest down the road as we get into the middle part of June. Hopefully you got some useful information. Of course, I'll be talking tropics the entire hurricane season, so make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page as well. Have a great rest of your Sunday and a great start to the work week as well. Bye, y'all.